Are you concerned you might be harvesting your lavender plants too early? Well, in this video, we're going to get into it. You're here with Mark Batwell at perfectgardens.com. I hope that's enough to beat the YouTube algorithm.
If you haven't checked out our monthly membership, I highly recommend to do so. Just for $2.99, your questions get sent to the top for quick replies. And if you haven't heard, I was recently sent a cease and desist order threatened with a lawsuit if I didn't take down my review against Clean Cleaner. I'm asking for a little more support to build up my war chest so that I can continue to keep giving you open and honest reviews, and we can further defend our right for free speech. Thank you so much, everyone.
I just want to say thank you so much to Aaron, one of our members, for asking this question around harvesting. Happy that I was able to help save a little money on not purchasing a refractor meter. 100% guys, just needing a little basic $15, $20 60x microscope that you can hook up to your phone, or you can just zoom in and out with your fingers, or you can zoom in and out one of those little handheld ones. It's going to be all you need to be able to make a great decision. Obviously, if you want to get into the science of things and be really specific, you're going to have to follow it up with testing and go down the direction with spending the money around testing your actual profiles. In this video, we're going to be covering the anatomy of the trichome of the lavender plant, going over a few pictures of the maturity of the trichome, suggestions when to harvest, the psychology of harvesting, where our industry has come from, and how we've developed poor habits, and a few of my suggestions for any growers out there that are getting close to harvest. Okay, so as you can see here, this is what it's all about right here. But have you ever thought about specifically what part of this trichome is what the industry is going after? In a few slides from here, I'm actually going to be pointing out specifically where all the terpenes and essential oils are stored in the trichome. I thought right here this was a really good slide and a couple pictures I pulled out. Okay, so I thought right here, just seeing all the different varieties of possible colors, right? So these right here, as you can see, are the clear. This is definitely not where you want to be harvesting. Right here, when it gets to the milky, at this point, I can promise you, you're going to be getting your return on investment, and more terpene profiles are going to start to definitely develop right here. But still at the same time, if you harvest here, you will be shooting yourself in the foot in the yield, in the overall yield, because like anything else, if you increase your surface mass, you're going to have more trichome production. As you come over here to the amber, even here, it is, I think, a little bit misleading, right? You can definitely see some clear right here. Then a few tips are amber. Right here is some milky, but a little bit more amber, really just starting. And then right here again, you see some clear, you see some amber. And at this point, you know, even down here, clear, amber, and you can see that it's just starting. Very often, I've also wondered, you know, is this the right time to harvest? I'm starting to see some amber. And it wasn't until I actually just let a plant go. I mean, we've always had huge crops growing, and for us and our family, we also got caught up on, okay, this is what you're looking for, this is when you harvest, and we're doing it mainly to be safe and to get that return on investment. And it wasn't until after the mushroom farm where I finally just let one whole section, about 100 plants, outdoors, 7-foot, 8-foot plants. I just knew, I was like, you know what, I really think that we can get more out of this SFOG. And we ended up letting it go for 2 more weeks. And through that whole process, every single day, just checking the yield, checking the trichomes, I realized that when I actually finally ended up cutting down those flowers, and I think I've actually posted that video, I'll see if I can find it and include it in the description. Although when we finally harvested it, it was just such a dramatic night and day difference in the yield, the smell, the overall quality. And at that moment, I realized how much money I had lost personally, as well also kind of guiding people, like, when do you harvest? Well, this is roughly around the right time to harvest. Obviously, all these people still made money. The issue though was I realized that we could have got more yield out of those crops. My decision to harvest early all those times and recommending other people to harvest came from the recommendations of bad habits that were being developed in this industry. And again, we have to kind of go into the psychology of harvesting, which we're going to get into at the end of this. But my point to this is, if you think you're ready to harvest, I would highly recommend waiting at least another week. If you have a large crop, well, sacrifice one plant to gain some experience, harvest all the rest of the crop, and just let one plant keep growing. Keep feeding it, keep growing it, don't flush it. and just see where it goes. Keep looking at the crystal production every day, because I promise you guys, you're not going to wake up and all the heads of the crystals are just going to burst. That's not going to happen overnight. That's going to happen through degradation of the plant and letting it go for maybe a month longer than the day it should have been harvested. And so what I'm saying here is whenever you think you should harvest, wait a week. If you have the patience, wait 2 weeks. And anywhere from that point where you thought you should have harvested to where you actually harvested is going to be your sweet spot in there. Okay, so this part right here is what everyone's after in the industry. All of the rest of the plant gets thrown away. Just take that into consideration. For extractors, for people out there in the industry, this is what everyone's going after. Okay, psychology of harvesting. Harvesting has been rushed too often because of the fear of the flood every year. Very often the thought process comes from if you harvest a little early, you'll be able to get your product to the market and you're going to be able to avoid the flooded season and still get decent pricing. Then forced flowering was figured out and people began to have more overall control of their flowering season. Indoor came on the scene and now we have the present day market. The issue though is we still have bad habits that were developed. And where did those bad habits come from though, right? It came from the scrutiny of this industry. And when people have the luxury to be able to observe things without fear of being incarcerated, well, you're probably going to be able to make a better decision. You're not so afraid of losing the product or someone taking it from you or you being robbed. Once again, you're probably going to be able to make a better fundamental overall decision. So my harvesting decision-making thought process comes from me trying to course correct bad habits that come from things that we are still a little bit concerned of, but we're not totally concerned of. So let's go ahead and talk about these. First thing I want you to think about, if you left the plant growing in the field a little longer, what would happen? That's like the first question I want you to think about when you write about a harvest. Ask this question to yourself before harvesting. Do I have to meet a schedule or deadline? Some commercial growers are going to have to meet deadlines, and you know what? That's going to make their decision to harvest at a certain time. But if you're a boutique farmer and you have more control over your farm, or maybe you have more control over your supply chains or distribution routes, well, your schedule might not be dictated by the season, and you might be able to create healthy systems and processes to be able to harvest properly. And what's the benefits of harvesting properly, right? Is more yield. And when you have more yield, you're going to get a larger return on investment and you're going to be able to grow your business quicker. If you're a small boutique grower just for yourself, you're going to be able to harvest more and you're not going to have to go to the club as fast. Next thing to consider, is there mold, bugs, rain, snow, or any conditions outside of weather and plant health that may alter my harvest state? Again, you never know. If I have powdery mildew or botrytis starting in the crop, that might make me want to start harvesting sooner. If I know a large amount of rain is going to come in and I don't have an outside shell, or it's going to just start raining and I'm not going to really get great sun, which might propagate, once again, a mold issue or a bug issue. Just recently I showed you how 3 days of snow came in and lo and behold, I ended up having bugs right after. If you have good weather conditions and you can let it go a little further, the next thought process is, do you have multiple plants of the same strain growing? If you do, look for these 3 things: density, size, and crystal production. If there is a plant that has a larger yield or size, use the largest as a peg to know what the rest can do before you choose to harvest. This might just be a great way to bring in an overall larger yield, because remember, you're going to yield more in the law of averages, not the extreme. Okay, so that one plant that's doing really well, if you use that one plant to make a decision to harvest your whole crop versus using that crop as a way of telling the future a few extra days, right? Knowing, okay, I know this plant's more mature than the rest, it was healthier, whatever. I know I'm going to have the weather to grow these plants a little longer. And I know these plants can yield more. Well, I might just let my rest of the crop grow just because of that yield difference in the overall average of the crop. In a sense, you're kind of like sacrificing one plant for the overall betterment of your crop. And you're not sacrificing it, you're just letting it mature. No matter what, if you get to the milky or amber of any level and the plants are healthy, you have got to harvest. So just be proud of yourself, right? If you have got to the milky or amber and you're not sure, just remember you have got to the end of harvest to some point and you've gotten your R.O.I. So all you have to do is get through the curing process, set up a healthy way to store your crop, and it's going to last. Probably the last thing I would recommend is to do not flush, guys. Unless you're reusing your soil and you're using a heavy amount of fertilizers, that would be the only reason to flush. And still at that point, I'd probably would only flush for a couple days. The flushing only actually flushes out some of the healthy nitrogen in your leaves, which if you've watched some of my past videos around the benefits of keeping your leaves on as a cocoon process, you'll understand that as well. I hope this video was helpful on understanding how to harvest a little better and creating a healthier decision making around the whole process. Please remember to like, share, and subscribe. Have a great grow, everyone. Calcium is needed as the plant is growing. So as it's getting taller, as the leaves are going from small to big, manganese is a semi-mobile nutrient, right? It's needed through the entire growing process, flowering process,